The LSU Tigers go on the road to Oxford, Mississippi, where Ole Miss is currently a 2.5-point favorite. This game is 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Love this rivalry game. Vaught Hemingway Stadium. It should be incredible. You got a suffocating defense on one side against a high-tempo offense that is engineered by one of the most creative minds in the sport. You got Brian Kelley against Lane Kiffin. Brian Kelley, who's now in year number 4, he's done a great job in putting this roster together. I think if you look at his philosophy over the course of time, they want to be a little bit more pro style. They've kind of leaned maybe a little bit more in the past on 12 personnel with 1 running back and 2 tight ends. That's changed a lot. Given the strength of their defense, they have deliberately implemented an offensive plan that has been a little more conservative, maybe a little more risk averse. And I think he's even acknowledged that. He said, we've kind of maybe held the offense back a little bit. There might have been a 4th down or 2 in which we would have gone for it in the past. But this year, with how we're playing defense, we don't need to do that. They just need to control the clock, don't make mistakes, and allow that dominant defense to come to the forefront and win them games. On the other side, it's Lane Kiffin. 6th year at Ole Miss. One of the premier offensive minds, one of the premier innovators in the sport. They have so many problems that they can create on a week-to-week basis. They always seemingly find great matchups. It really is. They always seem to find it. Now, Brian Kelley and Lane Kiffin, for as good as they've been, neither has been unbelievable against AP top 25 opponents. Brian Kelley is under 500 at 35-37. Lane Kiffin against AP top 25 opponents is just 11-24. So that'll be interesting to watch as well. In big games, these teams have not necessarily always played up to their standard, or their coaches' teams have not always played up to their standard, but here's hoping that will change for these 2 teams moving forward. LSU's offensive coordinator, Joe Sloan, their defensive coordinator, Blake Baker. On the other side, you have Charlie Weiss Jr. calling the plays offensively for Ole Miss, and defensive coordinator Pete Golding. Very different approaches in this game. You got one team that wants to play ball control, minimize risk. The other team wants to create a lot of variety offensively and score points in bunches. The quarterback matchup should be an intriguing one. Garrett Nussmeier has played a lot of football. He's got a quick release. I think he knows how to get the ball out. I think he has a great understanding of coverage. I think he does a pretty good job. However, this year he's been tasked with being a little bit more of a game manager, which is unique, a little different from what he was in the past. He's not afraid to throw it into tight windows. And through 3 games, 64 of 137, that's 68.5% completion. He's got 6 touchdowns, does have 2 interceptions. Both interceptions were regrettable for sure. But he's averaging just 240 passing yards a game. That's a pretty significant step back from what he was asked to do last year. He averaged over 311 yards last year. So that's down significantly from what they were. And obviously the conservative offensive strategy is what's led to that. One other thing too, he's been dealing with a little bit of a torso injury, oblique, ab, whatever it may be. It's kind of limited his practice reps, and I think that has impacted the rhythm of the passing game from time to time. Ole Miss's offense is led, well, it was led by Austin Simmons, who was the starter coming into the season, was a guy that everyone was just drooling over with his arm talent and how he could throw the ball down the field. The guy is super gifted as a passer. A little bit more traditional. He can run, but not much. He did suffer an ankle injury in week 2 against Kentucky and has been limited since. But in the 2 games that he started, there were 4 interceptions thrown. In comes Trinidad Chambliss, who is a transfer from Division II national champion Ferris State. He's been unbelievable, super dynamic, dual threat, crazy athleticism. In his first start against Arkansas, he goes for over 350 and adds 60 on the ground. In his following start against Tulane, 307 through the air, 112 on the ground, just the 4th player in program history to have a 300, 100-yard game. So he's also protected the football too, so that's big. Given the injury to Simmons and the play that we've seen so far from Chambliss, I think it'll probably be Chambliss in this game, but it'll be something worth watching because Simmons might have superior passing talent. The offense might be more dangerous with Chambliss at the helm, especially when you take into account the defense that they're going against by Blake Baker. They're kind of built around an aggressive front that wants to run, that wants to create, and with a stationary target, might be a little bit easier to corral than the ever-present mobility that Trinidad Chambliss can help neutralize that pass rush. So we'll see exactly where it goes. The offense might sacrifice a little bit more on the downfield, but maybe the mobility will be helpful in this game against a very, very good defense for the LSU Tigers. Couple impactful injuries in this game. Caden Durham, very, very good running back there for LSU, got hurt last week. Looks like an ankle injury. We'll be monitoring his availability in the days to come. Des Green missed a couple games ago. He's a great weapon in the red zone. So if their tight end can't go, that could be a big piece as well. West Weeks got hurt in the Florida game with a calf injury. Pretty young at linebacker and a little thin at linebacker if for whatever reason he can't go as well. And then Gabriel Relaford, who's got a shoulder injury. He's a big part of the edge rusher rotation, so we'll monitor that very closely. I think you look on the other side, Ole Miss, couple guys banged up. Jalen Braxton, a defensive back, big transfer in the secondary. We'll see whether or not he's available. Hopefully he can go for the Rebels. Question number 1. Can LSU's improved secondary limit the passing attack from Ole Miss? This is a premier battle in this matchup because LSU's defense has been super stingy this year, giving up just 182 through the air. But more importantly, they're giving up less than 5 yards per attempt, which is top 25. Slot star in Caden Lee, who has yet to really have that breakout game just yet. You got a big physical possession receiver in Dejon Stribling. You got a matchup nightmare in tight end at Daquan Wright, who can catch and run. Then you got Caleb Odom, who at 6'5" can be a huge problem in the red zone. And LSU's secondary, I think, is probably the most improved unit on the team. I mean, it really is. Mansour Delane, one of the best corners in college football, just a complete lockdown on the outside. You got A.G. Halsey at safety, who's one of the most instinctive players I've seen this year. They're big time and should provide a huge test for Ole Miss's passing attack. Question number 2, can LSU run the football against Ole Miss's porous run defense? Now, on paper, a bottom tier rushing offense should not be able to move the ball against any defense, but it's been documented. We know Caden Durham might be a little bit banged up, so it could be down to Jawan Johnson and Harlem Berry, unit that we saw a year ago. They're giving up 190 on the ground a game. That's 122nd. They're giving up over 5 yards per carry. That's 120th. So Ole Miss last year did a great job in creating negative plays. It's just not happening so far this year. And they also are not getting anyone behind the sticks because they're giving up a ton of yards after contact. So for LSU, if for the first time this year, they kind of established that physical presence on the ground, gain some positive rushing yards, kind of control the clock, dictate the tempo, keep Lane Kiffin's offense on the sideline, that'd be big. But if they can't, their offense could become one-dimensional. And at that point, that's when you start to become a little bit vulnerable as well. So the inability to run the ball has led to some red zone struggles too. If you look at it, they have just 11 touchdowns on 17 red zone drives, a sub 65% red zone touchdown rate. That's 67th. So you got to be able to run the ball when the field condenses. So they got to be better in that area against an Ole Miss defense that has not held up well against the run up to this point. Question number 3. Can Ole Miss's offensive line hold up against a havoc-wrecking front seven? Look, LSU's front seven is deep. It's talented. They can generate pressure from pretty much anywhere, especially on the interior. They still have the edges. They blitz over 40% of the time and hit the opposing quarterback over 41% of the time. Now, this is against an offensive line for Ole Miss that is very much a work in progress. They had some injuries in fall camp, still trying to build some chemistry. And while they've shown maybe a little bit of improvement the last couple weeks, this is clearly one of the question marks for this Ole Miss team is how will they hold up in pass protection? Because they are good running the football with Lacey. I think that run game is pretty good, but in pass protection, how will they hold up? That is a big question because we know the clear identity of the Tigers. They are deep and disruptive along the defensive line. Patrick Payton, Bernard Gooden, a lot of other talent. Attic for Chambliss in the event in which he's the guy this week. Question 4. If Ole Miss jumps out to a big lead, can LSU maintain their conservative offensive approach? Look, we know that Lane Kiffin's offense is built to jump on you early. If they get out to a 10-0, 14-0 lead, we'll kind of challenge what Brian Kelley has been committed to, and that's playing complementary football. Will he trust his offense to kind of claw their way back in the game? Or do you think you need to abandon the conservative script, maybe open things up for Garrett Nussmeier a little bit more? This will be a decision that could define what goes on in the second half. Question 5, can LSU's passing attack find some rhythm? I still think their wide receiver room is a strength. Like their wide receivers balance that out because you're going to have to probably win in the slot against these slot receivers for LSU. I will not pick the game. I'll be on the call alongside Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath, 3:30 Eastern time on ABC.